All right, welcome back to another day of Nintendo. All right, so if you've not been listening, we're doing these short podcasts every day, just one single topic. And our topic for today is, what is your best Nintendo Christmas gift memories? And at the same time, what is the worst Nintendo gift you've ever received?
Don't everyone jump in all at once.
Yeah.
Go for it.
When's the last time somebody received a Nintendo item as a Christmas gift?
Last Christmas for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't say it had to be recent either.
That's true. I mean, I definitely think mine was probably the Super Nintendo, because I think I got it when I was 12-ish or so, and still use it, still keep it hooked up. So I've definitely gotten a lot of life out of that. It's harder to pick a worse one.
It's sad to say that I'm old enough, but I'm pretty sure I've bought every Nintendo system I've ever owned myself.
Well, this can include gifts to yourself. I think that's
That's true.
Then everything counts. Like every year for Christmas, I don't buy. You know what I mean? I go to Black Friday to get something for me. I'm never buying Christmas gifts. Like all the stuff that I got, on the 7th with Smash and a bunch of Amiibo. That's all for me. I gave my wife a 3DS for Christmas one year, and that was probably the best gift I ever gave her. Sadly, but that says a lot about my wife. I got Mega Man. My mom gave me Mega Man for Easter, but that was Easter. I can't think. Oh, Christmas. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link.
Is that the worst or the best?
It was the anticipation, and it was the hype, and it was the excitement of having the new gold cartridge and the brand new, yeah, and it was before you realized how terrible it was. And when I beat the game and didn't realize how terrible it wasn't until 10 years later I thought back and went, Jesus, that was awful, right?
I think my worst ones are always ones that I asked for. Like I remember I used to pick NES games just off of the box art, and I was at an age where it's like, well, what do you want for Christmas? It's like, oh, how about Tiger Heli, a top-down helicopter combat game, which wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. Super Scope 6 was one that I wanted so badly.
Every kid wanted that so badly, though, man.
And I got it, and then 10 minutes later, the 6 C batteries, I think, or D batteries, whatever it took, they die like within a half hour. I was like, well, I'll never play this again. So
that and the little 6-pack game that came with it. Yeah, I remember getting excited getting that and playing those for a while, and then there was just nothing after a while, and they were pretty repetitive for the most part.
They were like, what do we call it? They're like, Super Scope 6 sounds great. They're like, well, what's 6 about it? They're like, let's give them 6 crappy games. Like whack-a-mole with a zapper. But yeah, I don't think I've ever received like a really bad
How
game
many
that I
Zapper
didn't
games?
ask for.
How many Zapper games were there on the NES? Like half a dozen?
There was probably more than that. There was probably over 20, I bet, if you went real deep.
No.
But Super Scope was Super Nintendo.
No, I know, but that's what I mean is well, okay, maybe I'm thinking more like Rob. Like Rob had 2 games for Rob, and one of them wasn't really even a game. The Zapper they had, Nintendo put out what, 4 or 5 Zapper games, maybe 6, and then there was probably another. You're right. There's probably another dozen or so.
Yeah, I'll bet you can get
vendors,
it up to 20.
But I mean, it seemed like that was such a neat peripheral. Like the gun games were popular in arcades forever and continued to be for another 15 years or longer. But they never really did much with the Zapper. So when the Super Scope came out, it was like they're even even further out of ideas. Now I completely forget what we're talking about. Oh, the worst gift ever.
Well, I can say easily that my best Nintendo Christmas gift memory was getting the original NES. I had been playing my cousins for some time, and anytime I went to visit my aunt and uncle, that was my first question: is can I play the NES? And of course, they were happy to let me do that while they, socialized and everything. And then I just remember having it on my own TV and that feeling of playing Super Mario Brothers at home on my Nintendo. That was
the I can I remember, man. I remember when my first friend brought it home, and none of us even sat. We all stood in front of the TV. We just couldn't, you know what I mean? Like everyone was so excited we couldn't even sit down, and we're just standing there, and we kept saying, "I can't believe this is at your house, dude." Like,
yeah, I had that with like NBA Jam and Mortal Kombat and stuff, because those were the games that we played in the arcade. And then it's like, now I'm playing it on my TV, even if I only rented it.
And it really looked, I mean, the NES and even the Super NES, right? Street Fighter 2, you're hard pressed to really tell the difference between the Super Nintendo version and the arcade version. They look great. And it was prior to that, remember, there were Ataris and I had the Intellivision, and like the NES was the first time there was parity or even close. Like the ColecoVision, the ColecoVision did all right, but it's still, if you go back and play those games now, they're terrible ports. I mean, comparatively, compared to the NES version of Donkey Kong that is arcade perfect, basically, with a few concessions for the screen shape and whatever, and memory because it's missing the level. But right, it was the first time that you could play something at home that really did look exactly like what it did in the arcade.
It's a beautiful moment.
It was amazing. I mean, that was it. That was, to me, that was the moment the arcade was dead. I mean, that was the moment the arcade was dead in my neighborhood. Was as soon as kids starting getting NESs, oh shit, I haven't dropped by the arcade in weeks. Oh yeah, let's go get some pizza and see what's going on over there, and it's empty. It had just, over the course of 6 months or so, that went from always the hopping spot on any Saturday, packed with kids playing video games, to a ghost town. My local pizza / arcade place. That was, I was fortunate to grow up in an area where I had a place in walking distance. That I could go, my parents would give me a few bucks. I could go get a slice of pizza and play a few games, and that was where my friends and I all hung out. Sorry, I'm reminiscing, but yeah, the NES killed arcades.
I remember that feeling of, ooh, I can play this at home, a little bit with the Ninja Turtles 2 on NES. There was a few games that I looked forward to, but one of the things that I recall, I think it might have actually been a birthday gift. They blur together a bit for me, but when I first got a Game Boy, and it's like, oh, I can play this in the car now when we're on road trips, or oh, I can take this to school and use a link cable and play Tetris against my friend, or whatever. Like, there was a lot of neat things that opened up that I'd never experienced before. The whole head-to-head play thing, for some reason, it seemed so different than it was at home, sitting and where you just invite a friend over.
It was like the same feeling as your first smartphone. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, but then again, too, I remember the lull with that, and the Game Boy, after the initial, Mario and Tetris wore off for a bit, and then it sat there unused for a while, and then it picked back up again when Pokemon came out at around the same time. My brother got one, and so we each had a copy, and then we started playing that and having battles against each other there. So that was, things came back to life again after a while of sitting unused.
It's unbelievable how well they kept that thing going. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, you were finished.
You keep saying go ahead just to finish. So.
It's because there's a delay, so I'm always trying to jump in, and I feel like I'm interrupting people all the time. But yeah, right, 9 years before the color version came out of that thing. That still boggles my mind. 1989 to 1998. Here's your Nintendo handheld option. Years after the Super Nintendo came out. Mind blowing.
Yeah.
And even after the color ones came out, you could still play the games on your old one if you had one around.
Which I did. I never bought a color.
I hate to drag up the topic of various Nintendo guns, but my worst Nintendo gift ever was easily the year I asked for a zipper controller for the NES. I don't know if anyone remembers those, off-brand controllers that had like turbo buttons and were weird colors. And yes, now that I look back at it, I don't know how I could ever ask for that monstrosity. But I asked for that, and instead of getting that, I got a zapper. So it was at least a different color than the one I had. I had the original gray, but I got the orange one. It devastated me so much, I have never opened that zapper, ever.
Now it's worth $5.
I could probably dig it out and sell it for that.
No, you could probably sell it for more if it's original in box unopened.
Who knows what kind of condition it is? I hated that thing. I was like, this is like a bad Christmas memory that was still there,
I'm sure it's well packaged, man. You could have probably thrown that off a house and it would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something where they probably went to the store and said he wants a zipper. They're like, there's no such thing as a zipper. We got a zapper. Like, oh, that must be.
Yep.
Of course, the kid doesn't know what he's asking for.
I remember my buddy's mom telling the story about how she went into the store asking for an Nintendo because she thought like an Intellivision, but it's an Nintendo.
And Max gets great Nintendo stuff every Christmas.
I usually get a game or something. I remember when your husband and we bought each other a DS for Christmas, and I told him I wanted the pink one, and so he went to Toys R Us and he pulled the slip for the pink one, took it up there, and they gave him a white one because he couldn't find. They're out of pink. It's like, well, why do you have the slips for them if you're out of them? They're like, well, take the white one, don't open it up, and call us back, and whenever we get the pinks in again, you can exchange it if you don't open it up. And I was just like, I can't open this on Christmas if they don't put the pink in. But he started calling after about like a week and a half. They got the pinks in, so he went in and exchanged it.
This is yet another reason Toys R Us is out of business.
Yeah.
Their inventory system was always terrible. Like to the point that they never could, even on the website, they couldn't really sell stuff very well because they'd just be out of it sometimes and not know.
Yeah. I had no problem getting him a black one.
All right. Actually, I had that problem with the Game Boy Color. I went on a Black Friday, I believe it was, to try and buy my first Game Boy, which was the Game Boy Color, and all Toys R Us had was the pink ones. And I said, no, that's not okay.
How old were you?
I was whenever Gold and Silver came out, so I was probably a teenager.
Yeah. Like nowadays, I probably would buy the hot pink and think it was cool, but yeah, not any time between like age 8 to age probably 25. I would have said no pink.
So, was that your favorite memory or your worst memory, Max?
That's probably more the worst. I knew I was going to end up unwrapping a white one on Christmas and having to watch my husband play his.
Open up your placeholder.
Yeah. I got him one so he could open up his and play it.
He would totally do that too. He'd open up and play it and go make you wait.
Oh yeah. I mean, he'd let me try it too, but yeah.
Let you try it.
I wouldn't have asked him not to, but yeah. I guess my best memory was I wanted the NES. And I was old enough to buy it myself, but for whatever reason, I didn't. My parents were like, "No, you're not getting that." They've been saying that for over a year. And one Christmas, there was one present, the last one back behind the tree, and it was the NES. I was just so surprised. They kept saying every time I brought it up, "Nope, we're not getting that for you. You gotta buy it yourself."
Did you get Mario and Duck Hunt?
Yep. And that was all we played for like a week before we finally went and bought Tetris.
Yeah, I was very happy with
That's all
those
you
two.
needed. I
Yeah.
mean, there's never been a pack-in game that good. Well, Super Mario World, I guess.
Wii Sports, the number
Wii
one
Sports.
selling game of all time.
Wii Sports can suck it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had my fun with Wii Sports, but that's Super Mario World versus or Super Mario Brothers. Either of those versus Wii Sports. I'm terribly sorry. Wii Sports loses.
All right. Well, hopefully this has stirred up some fond memories for you, and not just all the really bad ones where you got the things you did not want for Christmas.
With Super Mario 64, that wasn't a pack-in, was it?
No.
They didn't pack anything in with the 64, huh? Sorry. I interrupted you, Jason. Go ahead.
No worries. I was just going to close out for this version. So be sure and tune in tomorrow. We will have another day of Nintendo with hopefully some not so depressing holiday memories.